Someone must have looked at the Honda Grom and was like, time out, this is too much bike. This is too expensive, too heavy, too powerful. It's just unruly, cannot be handled. Can we dial this motorcycle down a notch? And Honda was like, yeah, how about the NAVi, which is the Grom to the Grom. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's less powerful, and it's far cheaper. This one brand new is $1,800 and this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to go wheel to wheel and everything in between on this 2023 Honda NAVi or NAVi, more on that later, and see for about that $1,800 what you are expecting to get from Honda. Then we're going to get on it, go out there, ride this motorcycle and see how many traffic violations we can commit before the cops actually start taking you seriously. And then I'm going to quantify my thoughts and give this mini bike my Emmy score. Let's start by talking about what's powering the 2023 Honda NAVi. It's a 109cc single-cylinder, carbureted, air-cooled engine that makes about 7.9 or about 8 horsepower at the crank, which I'm surprised to report is more powerful than the Ninja E1, the fully electric, full-size 320 or 30 pound motorcycle that Kawasaki recently introduced. Is less powerful. That has 6 horsepower. That motorcycle is less powerful than this supposedly pocket bike, mini bike from Honda. It's crazy. It's actually got enough power to get this bike up to about 55 miles per hour. That's almost freeway speed. So you might as well, when it's a little trafficy, take this mini bike out on the road on major freeways and be okay. I wouldn't recommend obviously long distances or when there is no traffic or parts of the freeway that are 70-75 mile per hour speed limits, but if it's 60 and it's a little trafficy, probably you can even overtake people with the top speed of this motorcycle. It's crazy. But anyways, that's the power you have here. A puny little pipe comes out of this engine. It's literally about the diameter of one of my fingers is what's coming out of this engine and goes to this muffler over the single-sided swing arm on this motorcycle. In fact, the way it looks, the single-sided swing arm from the other side, looks very BMW-esque. But anyways, if you want to hear what the 2023 Honda NAVi sounds like, well, here it is. This engine is connected to a continuous variable transmission, or a CVT, which is why a lot of people consider this to be a scooter, because you don't change your own gear and you don't have a clutch lever to pull up there. I think it takes more than that to call something a scooter. Scooters usually have that signature look of a flat seat and a huge wheel well up here. This motorcycle looks just like a street bike, but minified, and that's why Honda calls this a mini bike. That's the category given to this motorcycle and the other 3 members of the family in the US, the Grom, Trail 125, and the Monkey, plus the NAVi are the 4 mini bikes offered in the US. But anyways, about the CVT, the question that comes to mind is, how do you make this motorcycle not roll down the hill when you're parked on it? Because as you know, if you have a regular transmission, you put it in gear and it essentially stops the wheel from turning. This motorcycle can't do that. It will roll down the hill because it doesn't have neutral versus gear. So what Honda has done is the same thing they did on the Rebel 1100 DCT, the dual clutch transmission, which is an entirely different mechanism than a CVT, but on the surface, they're essentially the same, meaning no gear changing and no clutch lever to pull, and it's always in neutral when it's turned off. The solution is in providing you a handbrake up there. So where the clutch lever would have been on the left handle, there is this significantly differently designed handbrake. The lever looks nothing like a clutch, nothing like a brake lever. It looks very short and stubby. And that's so to prevent you from pulling it accidentally during your ride, thinking it's the clutch. If you're coming right off another motorcycle that has a clutch, that's the handbrake, and it stops it from rolling down the hill. Now let's move on to the left side of the motorcycle, which is the more interesting side. There's a lot to cover here, but before we do that, let's for a second talk about the name. Is it NAVi or is it NAVi? It's both, because in 2016, Honda offered this motorcycle first in India. In the Indian market, this was thought to be a very popular motorcycle, and I would have thought so too, except they just canceled it because it didn't get enough traction. They didn't sell enough of these to continue production in India. They canceled this motorcycle as of a couple weeks ago, in fact. But anyways, over there, NAVi was the word for this motorcycle, the name for this motorcycle. NAVi in a lot of Indian dialects means new. When they brought this motorcycle to the American market, where I thought it wouldn't do well, but it is the opposite of India, for some reason. That's the last place I thought this motorcycle would work out. But anyways, when they brought it here, they didn't have to change the name, because NAVi, or NAVi in this case, is the first four letters of the word navigation, which remotely could kind of mean something for this motorcycle. Navigating your way around busy streets and tight spots. So NAVi in the US, or English-speaking countries perhaps, and NAVi in India. There you have it. But anyways, let's start from the very back end of this motorcycle. Right here is the second way of starting up this motorcycle, other than the electric starter, the battery, and the starter motor up there, the button to push. Down here you have a contingency plan, an insurance plan, in case your battery dies. A lot of motorcycles that come from perhaps poorer economy countries do have a kickstart still, because maybe not a lot of people decide to change the battery immediately when it starts going bad. And so they always offer a Kickstarter on those types of motorcycles. If the battery is dead, you can just start it up with this. I mean, the battery doesn't have to be dead. You can always start it with this if you want to get a little frisky and do a little bit of workout. But other than that, you can start it up there or down here. Anyways, moving up here, you're going to see this huge gray box. What is this? Storage. It's a smart way of using the void, the empty space that would have been here had this not been here. Obviously, the engine is back there, as I showed from the other angle. So it leaves you all this space up front, and they have used it as a storage. In fact, I've heard that up to like 22, 23 beer cans fit in this motorcycle. Well, I didn't want to bring beer cans with myself, 23 cans of beer. Instead, I brought Sprite. So let's see how many cans of Sprite can fit in NAVi's under the gas tank compartment. Let's do it. Okay, so 19 cans, and probably 2, maybe 3 more could fit. So yeah, I believe them. 22, 23 cans of beer could fit in there. Wow, good job. Now let's move up here to the front wheel, which for some reason reminds me of the wheels on like a wheelbarrow or like a hand truck. It has the same air cap, air valve, same style of wheels, same rim. Everything looks just like a utility vehicle, not a motorcycle. But anyways, that's how the rim and the wheel looks. But also it's got a drum brake, not a disc brake, which is interesting to me because I don't really see any other motorcycle that uses drum brakes anymore, at least in the US. So how is something rarer, cheaper to manufacture? Because if anything, the calipers, brake pads, and rotors are now so prevalent, they're so everywhere, that I would have thought it's nowadays cheaper to go that route than to go the route of a drum brake. But anyways, both front and rear brakes are drum brakes. What you're going to notice are these two cables running into this drum brake. One of them comes from the brake lever, the other one comes from the brake pedal. So that's where these two lines are coming from. The one that's coming from the brake pedal also goes to the rear wheel. So if you tap on the brake pedal, you activate the linked braking. You brake both front and rear wheels. Whereas if you just squeeze the lever on the right side, you only activate the front brake system. Now let's talk seat height on this NAVi, and it's not a short bike at all. PSA, if you're getting this motorcycle because you are short and you want to go for the smallest bike on the market thinking it's going to be a very comfortable one, you should test ride one of these, because the seat height on this motorcycle is 30 inches, which is crazy. Think about it. A Honda Africa Twin, which is pretty much renowned and famous for being this massive adventure bike, is only about 4 inches taller than this motorcycle. That sits about 34 inches of seat height. This is 30. Not a short one. So I'm 5'7". Again, not a super tall person at all, but look at me on this motorcycle. Ooh, if it's on this center stand, I can barely flat foot it. Now, off the center stand, obviously, it's a different story. You can see I don't have a lot of bend left in my knee. It's essentially straight up. So keep that in mind. If you are shorter than 5'5", probably, you're probably not going to be able to flat foot this motorcycle. Now, that's not the end of the world. You can still ride a motorcycle without having to flat foot it, but take that into consideration. If that's one of the items on your list, test ride this motorcycle, you're going to probably be surprised by how tall this is. As for features on this motorcycle, you don't get anything, electronics or safety features, any of that. I mean, $1,800, the cost of this motorcycle. By the time you add up the wheels, the frame, the engine, the seat, the light bulbs, the handlebar, all those things together, it costs about $1,800. No room left to add any fancy features on this motorcycle. You don't have ABS, you don't have traction control, you don't have cruise control, you don't have grip warmers, seat warmer, none of that. Obviously, on this motorcycle, the only thing you do have is a fuel gauge, which I appreciate, because the gas tank is only a 0.9 gallon gas tank, less than a gallon worth of fuel fits in this gas tank. Although the mileage is pretty good, it gets about a little over 100 miles per gallon. It's still a relatively small gas tank, so it's good to have a fuel gauge. One interesting thing about the gas tank is that the gas cap is actually hidden under a lockable door, which means Honda really knows the demographic of whoever buys this, where they live. They probably live in an urban city, and probably fuel theft is a thing. So it's lockable so people don't steal your gas when you're in the city. And with all of that out of the way, I think you and I are ready to take this motorcycle out on the road and give it a try. But before we do that, a huge shout out to Everett Powersports for allowing us to take this bike out on the road and put miles on it. It's not always desirable to sell a brand new motorcycle with miles, so they're willing to have that kind of conversation with the next owner, whoever the next owner of this bike is, just so you guys can get a better sneak peek of how this motorcycle functions out on the road. So go check their website out. The link to their website is in the description section of this video. And with all of that, let's go and take this bike out on the road. Literally, we might be able to take this. All right, riding the NAVi. How to turn it on, since it's got no gear to shift or anything, you just have the side stand up, squeeze the brake, have the starter on the standby mode, push the starter, bam bam bam, let's go this way. Oh, this bike is so fun. Like, there's something about a tiny little motorcycle. It's fun for others to see you on, and it's fun for you to be on. Okay, here is me flooring it, and we're gaining some traction. Nice, not too bad, not too bad. Okay, so again, tapping on the brake pedal means, oh wait, high beam is on. There you go. Tapping on the brake pedal means both brakes are activated. Squeezing this brake means only the front brake is activated, and squeezing this and locking it in place means the rear brake is only activated. Ah! Oh, we made it! Let's test the suspension here real quick. Let's Let's cross the sidewalk with this motorcycle. Let's see how long it takes for a cop to pull us over. Okay, this is way more functional than the Ninja E1 was, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, the brakes are... I ran a red light twice. Once because it's not fast enough to go through a yellow, and second because the brakes are not strong enough to stop me on a on a red. Okay. Oh, floor. Yeah! Come on! 40. Okay. Let's brake before we hit that car. Oh, that was a close one. Let's actually make a U here. This is fun. This is so fun. Oh, let's see if we can get to the top speed real quick. 50. Oh no, we're 45. 45. Okay, well, we made it to 45. Also, I weigh 168, I think. I don't know. I have not weighed myself as of recent, but I don't know. If you're much heavier than I am, probably, I don't know. Maybe it works out just fine for you. This is fantastic. The suspension is just firm enough to, you know, not be too wobbly like an adventure bike, but it's also not too firm like a sport bike. They've dialed it just right. I mean, it's Honda, it knows what it's doing. Let's see, I'm flooring it, and I don't think I can overtake this car, so I just have to go behind him. I don't know if the on-ramp onto the freeway is long enough to gain speed, so that to gain enough speed that you are going the same speed as every car on the freeway. Right, because that's the whole point of an on-ramp, is that you match your speed with whatever cars on the freeway. I don't know if you can do that on this motorcycle, but if you choose to take this on an interstate, either, as I said, take it during rush hours, so people are not going fast anyways, or two, take entrances onto the freeway that are long enough for you to gain enough speed. So that would be my only suggestion, I guess. Other than that, no real barrier to riding this on the major ways. And now onto the ME score for the 2023 Honda NAVi. In the commuter category, you get a tiny motorcycle that can squeeze in between cars and obstacles. Gets great gas mileage and is unbelievably simple to work on. It also has a fuel gauge, which can help you plan ahead for your next stop, since the tank does not take a significant amount of fuel. The NAVi has a useful handbrake and linked front and rear brakes for added safety, so that the rear does not slide out from underneath you. The NAVi also has a center stand, which tremendously helps with maintenance without the need to buy front or rear stands for the bike. The bike has a large storage compartment that I demonstrated to you during the video. As for pricing, you simply cannot beat $1,800 even a lot of e-bikes are more expensive than that. The only potential drawback to this bike would be the low top speed of 55 miles per hour, which probably isn't a concern for someone who buys this, because this motorcycle has a very specific use case, and that is weaving in and out of tight spaces in the city. As for the manufacturer, Honda is the largest motorcycle company, so parts and labor should be relatively cheap and plentiful, which is great for a daily commuter bike. The NAVi earns a 15 out of 20 in the commuter category. Now onto the performance/dope factor category. NAVi has no track-oriented features whatsoever, and is pretty much bottom of the barrel in the power category. Sitting at 234 pounds wet, it is very light and agile to throw around, which is a tremendous upside to a mini bike. As for the design choices and marketplace, I personally find the Grom to be much more attractive, but it also is a lot more expensive than this motorcycle. The NAVi gets a 6.5 out of 20 for the overall performance and dope factor category. And it sits here on the list of other mini bikes I have reviewed, which is no other bike than this particular one at the moment. This bike is truly the Grom of the Honda Grom. Smaller, lighter, cheaper, and less powerful. But all these attributes are the very reasons why you would even consider a Honda NAVi in the first place. So to sum up Honda NAVi, well, it sure beats walking.